All right. Good morning, everyone. This is Dan Beenken with the Advanced Iowa program at the University of Northern Iowa. Our focus is on helping companies through transitions and also with our family business programming. I'm part of the Center for Business Growth and Innovation at UNI, which is our outreach arm for businesses across the state. We are focused on a series this week and in the near future on how companies are coping with the COVID crisis. And I am joined today by the president and CEO of Fareway grocery stores, Reynolds Cramer. Reynolds, first of all, thank you so much for joining us for a few minutes this morning. We greatly appreciate your time. I would argue that your industry, maybe along with healthcare and a couple others, are probably the most impacted right now. I'm sure you can attest to that, and your lack of sleep can attest to that. And I was just curious if we could start out by maybe having you talk a little bit about kind of what COVID has meant from a day-to-day standpoint for you guys as a company. Maybe a little bit about, what things you've been putting in place and what types of things are maybe on the horizon for you guys, if any.
You bet, Dan. Thanks for having me, and hopefully for everyone watching and listening, it's not too noisy here. I'm in the warehouse right now. We've got a lot of stuff going on. At this time of the day, typically we're finishing up unloading semis every day that are coming in, bringing us products. We are probably just in the first hours of that now, where we will be going unloading till about 8 p.m. tonight. It's an all-day thing every day now. So we go from 50 or 60 trucks to almost 200 every day that are coming in right now trying to replenish. So it's a little bit crazy. And I'm at our tower area in our warehouse that's automated, and so pallets are inputted into the system, and then a crane takes them and puts them away in an 8-story building. And it's a pretty high-tech area, and it's also proven to be a challenge, because when you think about having things automated, they're used to running a certain way, but when you get triple and quadruple the amount of product that you need in and out, it slows it down just a little bit. So let's go back to your question about just what we've been doing. When you think about the grocery business in general, obviously everyone expects their products to be safe, the environment to be clean. You always talk about where the produce has come from or where our meat has come from. Well, we've shifted gears, overnight, from the standpoint of now it's more about touch points and making sure that customers feel safe when they're in the stores. So that thought before, where you'd come in and just grab a grocery cart and you wouldn't think about it, that's a big deal right now. So we're spending time every hour cleaning carts, wiping carts down. We're cleaning our pin pads. It's no different than I went to the gas station the other day to get gas, and now all of a sudden I thought, wow, do I need to sanitize this pin pad that I'm going to press after I put my credit card in? So I think everyone is rethinking things. And what we've done is just kind of put our cleaning thought process on steroids for our customers' safety and overall their thought process and just their mind of saying, I don't have to worry when I come to Fareway because they are taking all these precautions. So it's everything like wiping down the door handles of the freezer or the dairy doors. Just there's so many touch points, as you know, and that's been our number one focus, more so than ever. And so that's probably one of the biggest automatic changes that we made right away.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And you've been in the grocery business for quite a long time, but maybe, I don't know, did you always plan to start to be in grocery, did you think? You're the 4th generation CEO and president, as I mentioned earlier on the show, I think taking over from your father, who had been the previous CEO. What was it like growing up in a family-owned company? I know that our focus is COVID, but a lot of our audience is family-owned companies as well, and I think a lot of them would love to hear maybe a little bit about that too.
Sure. The founder, Paul Beckwith, passed away before I was born, so I never got to meet the first CEO and president. I think he had a great idea, and that was to create a business that others were doing. He worked at Safeway over in Omaha, and there was a point where they had some tough times and they cut their bonuses. and he just didn't think that was right. He thought we need to treat our employees fairly. So he brought that mentality, that thought process. He created his own company. It's kind of Fairway, or it's kind of funny that Fairway and Safeway are so similar named. That was purposeful back then. But yes, I've had a couple uncles that were CEO. My father was president. That when he retired in 2006. And then I've been fortunate enough to kind of take the reins after I've got 35 years in right now of experience. I've done it all. I used to say I've done it all except for work in the warehouse. Well, that's changed over the last few weeks. So I was an assistant manager, a manager at a Des Moines store, a district supervisor. Once again, all the different aspects of this business. And I've gotten to know, I've known the warehouse operation, obviously, but I've gotten to know it firsthand, gotten to see how we can adjust quickly to doing some things differently, how we do them based upon these needs that all of a sudden have, once again, tripled, quadrupled overnight, based upon the fact that there are so many great businesses out there today and restaurants that, quite frankly, either aren't open or can't fulfill the average needs of the consumers right now. So we're that main business out there trying to take care of everyone, and it's very challenging.
Yeah, on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you're at the top, right? So what do you think from the standpoint, I think we got this question from a couple people before we started even, was your value system, moral compass at Fareway is incredibly well known. You see it as soon as you drive on the parking lot, I think, and you start to experience that, the way that you do business and the way that you're consistent about that. How has that helped your company, do you feel like, deal with a crisis like this?
That's a great question. I think it's something that the reason we feel like we're doing a good job of it right now is because we've had such a background of how to do things. So I'll give you a real good example. We just came out last week with some bonuses for all of our employees, all of our hourly employees. So we didn't start at the top. There's no bonus for me. There's no bonus for our executives, people like that. It's our hourly employees that we cared about. Now we came up with a number. We came up with a thought process. Let's go with half a week for part-time, and let's go with a full week of benefit for full-time. So that's either vacation they can use later, spend with their families, or they can draw that out for cash immediately. Now, when we added all that up, I saw the numbers. It's in the millions. And the question was how are we going to deal with that from the standpoint of, well, we don't even know, what our quarterly numbers are going to be. We don't know any of these things. Well, my answer was simple. We got to do what's right for today for our employees, but we also have to do what's right for our employees in the future. So we're going to be 82 years next month in May, and I want to be 90 and 100 plus years in business. And so the only way to do that is to take care of our people today, no matter really what the cost.
Perfect. And so with that mindset, I'm sure your employees feel that, and know that. I'm guessing you even have employees who are generational from their own families of working with you guys and for you guys. Do you feel like, I don't know if there are ever times when you feel like the value system that you have in place now, does it make it easier for you to kind of, I guess, give your story of how you're focused on your employees and focused on your clients now because you always were to begin with?
Like I said, it definitely was the footprint to how we do things, and it made it easier to make some of these decisions. And the decisions aren't over, obviously. I mean, we've got weeks ahead of us with more challenges. I don't know where we're going to be 6 weeks from now, 8 weeks, 2 months from now. I know where we all hope we're going to be,
Sure.
but we're going to continually have to make decisions that are going to be costly decisions, and we're going to cross our fingers that we're doing it right. But I think overall, we're going to feel good inside, even if we're down the road 6 months and we have a quarterly report that says, well, you know what, you only made this, or let's say you lost money, or whatever that is. I still think it's a bump in the road, because one of the things that we look at, and we do this year in and year out, is, we compare numbers to a year ago, 2 years ago, etc. But if you have a bump in the road, we know that we got to look at the big picture. So what's the year look like? What's the 3-year trends look like? Just because there's a time frame where commodity prices change, or, right now egg prices are up. I know some people have said that, why are we charging so much on eggs? Well, I got so frustrated the other day that I actually went to our buyer and I went down the list and I changed some of our egg prices and I lowered them, and some of them to cost, because that's a perception out there that we don't want to have. So once again, we do make decisions sometimes that put us in a negative category, maybe from a profitability standpoint, but long term, I want that faith from that customer. And isn't that what it's about?
Yep.
Small businesses especially. Why do I go to, I'll tell you right now, Ace Hardware. If I go to Ace and Boone or Ace and Ames or wherever and buy a hammer, number one, I trust them. I trust the fact that how they represent themselves, and even to the fact that, let's say that hammer is 50 cents more than at another competitor, that's okay, because of that overall small business sense and what they're doing. And that's what I think has kept some of the great small businesses going, is they've come up with a strategy of, they got to know who they are, and have to represent themselves well and be proud of that and gain that trust.
Absolutely. And at a time like this, that trust kind of comes into play, and I think it's something that you can leverage, right? And be grateful that you have with clients. It's well said. Thank you, Reynolds. Another question, and I'll reiterate, we are live right now with Reynolds Cramer, President and CEO of Fareway Grocery Stores. We do have a Q&A function that you can participate. If you have questions, please send those through that, and if we get time, we'll have Reynolds answer any of those. One other question that we got ahead of time, Reynolds, was in regards to how you kind of work with your family through a crisis situation like this, in terms of what do the communication channels look like? How are things a little, if at all, different? What things did you already have in place before to make communication easier now? And how are you leveraging their skill sets and things to help move you forward through this?
Right. So you mentioned that communication is key. And, typically I'm in communication with our board and with family members with specific questions about, what's going on. We currently have about 4 or 5 family members, really engaged in the business from the standpoint of in our office and different levels. Now that's a lot less than, 50 years ago, but that's just kind of the way that goes. And I think the communication in the last 3 or 4 weeks, I typically have sent out emails about every 2 or 3 days, just giving, updates and then thought processes to the next few days. So when this all started almost 3 weeks ago, we actually had quite a few of our executives on spring break. And so I created a command center quickly, different level people that were here. We have a call every day at 4 o'clock. We've been doing that for 3 weeks, where we digest what happened today, and then we talk about what's going to go on tomorrow and the rest of the week. And then we communicate that to our teams, and then also I'm communicating to our board about that from the standpoint of, just letting them know what we're doing, why we're doing it. There's there can be Monday morning quarterbacks all the time, but I think that we've proven to our board over time that they trust what we do and the decisions we make. And as you know, lots of times decisions that you make, you might not find out the results for weeks, months, a year, and you're crossing your fingers once again that you're doing the best you can do. But it's easy when you've got a great team, and we have a great leadership team at Fareway. we've had in the last 10 years probably 20 or 30 that have retired from leadership. And now the new people in leadership, they're the young ones, I'd say, from experience. They've only got 25 years of experience or 30 years of experience. So, once again, that's something we're proud of Fareway. We typically hand out coats every month to employees that are 25, 30, and 40 years of experience, even a few 50 years of experience. So our goal is to keep our people once they start with Fareway.
Wow. It comes through when we're in the stores, it's amazing that, you see the same faces every time, et cetera. And um, I was wondering if we could go back to one thing that you mentioned about the family business. You mentioned it a little bit indirectly, in terms of, you don't have to manage to tomorrow or to a quarterly earnings report or a number, a forecast, whatever it might be, from the standpoint that you're not publicly held and treated in those standards. How does that help you? And you've already said a little bit, I think, about that, in terms of, well, let's just cut the price for right now if it's a perceived issue or whatever. But how does that help you to be a family-owned company with such longevity and to get through something like this where you know that you don't have to just manage to the end of the month or the end of the quarter?
Right. I'll give you an example. So I got a chance to talk with a few gentlemen and a few ladies a couple years ago individually, and we ended up hiring all of them. They came from different vendors in the business. So my strategy was, if we had an area in our business that we're not experts in, and I'll give you an example. Let's say it's the beer business. So we want to hire somebody that knows about the beer business. We went and did that. We've sold beer, we know about beer, but yet sometimes people in that business a lot smarter. Well, the first thing they said to us was, so you're telling me that I don't have to live up to expectations for numbers and sales data and different levels every week, every month, every quarter? And we said, no, we don't get up every day and worry about what did we do last year this week or last year this quarter on this day. We just see it as every year is different, things change, and you just adapt and you go. Now, do you use some of those benchmarks, as a guide? Sure. But I don't have people, there's no one at Fareway that gets up every day and says, I can't get my paycheck today because I didn't sell as many, cans of beans as I did last week or last year, because as we know, sales numbers can go through the roof. You could give it away and move numbers. But that's not smart business.
Sure. Perfect. Another question that we're getting through our Q&A right now, I think, is a good one. COVID related. You're dealing with a crisis like you've probably never seen, obviously, and all of a sudden, grocery stores are being asked to do interviews nonstop, I'm guessing, and your industry is sexy, or it seems like it's at least front page. What lessons are you carrying from this crisis, you think, that are going to help you once we get back to what I hope is a normal in the very near future? What's that? What kinds of things are you learning from this? Are you taking away from this? Are you jotting down mentally or otherwise, or that kind of thing?
So I've been talking with our team already about, hey, we need to be game planning for a month from now, 6 months from now, and a year from now on how we're going to be doing things differently than we would have thought we would have been. So this idea about cleaning carts, just use that as an example. Well, that's not going to end 6 months from now when this crisis is over. I mean, we just realized that we're going to have those type of procedures in place forever. In fact, when these companies and the sanitizing companies and they get going, that's probably a great find a company to invest in right now, because we're going to be wanting to have sanitizer on every check stand for eternity. I mean, I think that's just the way it's going to be. And that's just one small example. I think we're also going to be looking at our buying patterns and how we're going to be thinking about what are specific items that we need to maybe have a little bit higher inventory of. And here's a weird one for you. So as I'm standing with the team at night and we're building these pallets to give our warehouse people a little bit of relief, and believe me, we've got people from IT, our buyers, we've got meat coordinators, people who've never built a pallet in their life. I've been in working every single night for 3 weeks. We're seeing things come down the line like snack pack pudding, flour and yeast. Now, when I say these things, you would say, well, you sell that all the time. But we don't sell it in crazy amounts. Well, what's happening is these kids are home. They're not in school. So now families are having to do 3 meals a day, be creative, and have things for their kids that they normally don't have to have. So that thought process about what are the items we're going to have more of, more ability based upon timing and things, that's going to be something we'll be changing in the future also.
So quite literally, all of the front of the house type staff, what I would, the operations, marketing, IT, a lot of those folks are in the warehouse taking shifts as well to help all of us get our food and groceries, huh?
Yeah, if when you think about what it takes to get food on the shelf, I mean, I think what happens is anytime I've given a tour here at the warehouse, people always go away thinking, wow, I didn't realize it was this big. I mean, we have over 1 million square feet of warehouse. The point that product comes in to how it's palletized, to then how it goes on a truck, to then how it gets to the store, and that repeats itself day in and day out, it's quite the deal. What we've learned during this is we've had to tweak our shifts a little bit. So we've learned that there's been some areas where in order to try and keep the timing the same for deliveries, we've had to create some new shifts during the day and change up how we do a few things, which really just leads to the future again to, hey, as we grow, have more stores, we've got a glimpse of what that looks like already. So now we'll be able to plan a little bit better and not, quote, make it up in the future. We've got some data now.
Yep. Is there anything that maybe, your 3 week ago self would be surprised at what's happening now that you didn't anticipate happening in your industry?
Well, I had not planned and really had not thought about the fact that restaurants, for one, would be virtually mostly closed down. It's been so impressive to see how some of the restaurants have created the, quote, drive-through opportunities and pickup opportunities that they never did before.
Yep.
So, to go to some of the great restaurants and pick up food, I recommend it. They need help. These smaller business, they need help. So you would never think that I would say I don't want business in our stores. The fact is that, everyone has their breaking point. So I would please suggest that everyone get out there and support whatever small businesses are open right now in any way you can, because it's so imperative to keep their staff going, to keep them up, so that when we get through this, they stay open. Believe me, I want all the business I can, but there comes a point where we do need to share with some of our great small business partners.
Yeah, that's a great comment. I think I appreciate that Reynolds making that known out there, that there's tough time for so many folks right now. Another question that we've got in here from the Q&A, we're in a crisis situation, but there's usually some good that you can find out of the bad. What's the best experience story maybe that you could relate to us that you've seen firsthand there at Fareway going through this?
Well, probably the neatest thing was, you don't know until things happen exactly how your staff, your team, your employees are going to be able to react and what their thought process is. And without a doubt, all of our 12,000 plus employees have just taken this on like, hey, this is what we're here to do. We're here to help the public, and we're going to take on this challenge. So that's been probably the thing that's touched my heart the most. So I think besides that, then you go to customers and some of the things they've done. We just got an envelope was dropped off at a Fareway store. I'm trying to remember, it might have been Decorah or somewhere like that, where customer just wrote, "Thank you for everything you're doing." They put a few $100 bills in it and said, "Please use this for your crew, store manager, to get pizza, to get something, to thank your employees. We just really appreciate it." I mean, think of that. Somebody out there dropped off, $300 or $400 and said, go thank the crew that is helping get the food on the shelves and giving it to us. I mean, there's a lot of great people out there.
That's a really cool story of how we come together, care for each other. Your store, your company is built on that message, I think, and I think we can see that today when we're there now, that some of that legacy is helping carry you through this. I promised that we'd keep it to a half hour, be brief and informal. We've got one more question maybe that we'll take here quickly, and it's a question/compliment. It's coming from Decorah, asking about the impact of college facilities closing. And I think you mentioned it already. You've got kids at home now that are having 3 meals a day versus 2. But how do you see the college facility closures impacting you? And as I mentioned, he's from Decorah, and he's saying that things up there are going exceptionally well at the store, and he's appreciative of everything they're doing there.
Right. I've spoken to some great administrators, presidents of colleges, athletic directors. I mean, I couldn't imagine just all of a sudden having to say we're going to go to online and try and finish this out. I've got a son that's in 9th grade in high school. I'm fully expecting that we're going to get down the road another few days, and probably school will be either canceled for the rest of the year or postponed again for a few weeks. I laughed a little bit. I said, well, just give everybody A's and let them move on. But no, I think really right now what I'm being told is everyone is just worried about August and September, and are we going to be able to quote start things in the school systems, athletics, just everything like normal, or is it going to be more delays? So all we can do right now is pray and hope that the good Lord helps us get through this, and as a country, as a state, etc., that in a few weeks, in a few months, yes, we are back to some sense of normalcy.
I hope so too. Thank you so much, Reynolds, for your time. We've been talking with Reynolds Cramer, the current president and CEO, 4th generation president and CEO of Fareway grocery stores, based in Boone. He's in their warehouse right now. Obviously, it's a little noisy there. It sounds like you guys are churning out 3 or 4 times the volume that you had been. So we got to let you get back to work. Thank you so much for what you do in the communities across our state with your employees. I know several of my buddies have been checkout guys and whatnot over the years. And anyway, I just want to say thank you so much for your time on behalf of our crew here. And we wish you all the best as you go through this crisis and come out of it on the other side. Thank you so much, Reynolds. Take care.
Definitely appreciate it.